Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best Whole New World. Today, it's Creating Love with the awesome Melody Chadamoyo in Ireland. And it's beginning of the year, as so many people think, in January, but it's already like just over 4 weeks to Valentine's Day. So this is the perfect time. We're beginning a series, 4-part series on creating love. And today's topic is about letting go of the past, because you got to let go just of 2017 in order to get 2018. Right, Melody?
Yes, indeed. Hi, everyone. And yes, today we are doing a love preparation. We're preparing ourselves to be creating love in 2018. And in that sense, we are letting go of the past, because usually in love situations, people tend to hold on to things that have been done to them before in the past. And we're saying those things don't serve you. They don't help you to create the love that you want. And now we want you to start thinking about, what do you want? What do you want to create? Whom do you want to create it with? Is it with your mother? Is it with your siblings? Is it with your, I don't know, boyfriend, husband, children, actually? I always share Valentine's presents with my kids because I want them to know that I love them too. Mm-hmm. And even though they might be tiny, it might be a cake, it's still acknowledging the fact that everybody's celebrating love today. I don't believe in the commercialization of love. I just want to say that. But I also believe in expressing yourself as much as possible whenever you can. So let's create love.
Heart to heart.
Yeah.
Well, and love makes the world go round, right? I mean, it's this ever-present force. So let's create this space and intention that people are able to open and receive it. Today, when I was on my walk, we had a beautiful snowfall last night. And there was a little teeny, water flow coming from one area into the pond, right? And it just made me realize that that's all you need to do. You just need to open just a little and things can transform, because this flowing water, although it's making just a small space, it's making an impact and pushing away the frozen water, right? And when you're actually intending to create love, the first step is to be here with us and to say, yes, that's what I want. And as you're doing so, it's like, let's get rid of the stuff that's created that frozen or staleness from the past.
Yes, I love gardening, so I'm going to give a gardening analogy, in that when I'm going to plant flowers or vegetables or whatever, before you put in anything new, before you put in new seeds, you have to dig up all the old stuff and clear the land and throw away things and smooth out the whole place or the whole space you want to work on. And then you plant the seeds. Because the seeds are going to come out and you're going to see your flowers beautiful. But if you don't and you just throw the seeds in there with everything else, those old plants, those dead plants will hinder your seeds from growing and flourishing as much as they could. Same thing with carrying stuff from your past. It hinders you from creating the love that you want. Letting it go, especially now, it's very timely. We are at the beginning of the year. People are thinking about the things they didn't want last year or 5 years ago or whatever, and they're getting rid of them. Some of them are taking up exercise and already given them up. I don't know. But I just think this is the best time for you to start thinking, what do I want in my life? What kind of experiences do I want to have in my life? And what kind of love do I want to experience in my life? And actually, Dr. Leo Bascaglia is Italian, so I hope I pronounce his name right.
The one that started the hugs.
Yes, yeah. Love is a learned experience, but we make the mistake of thinking that it just happens. So let's learn to love. Let's create love the way we want to do it, not the way society, media, or whoever has told us we should do it.
That's brilliant. So creating love, right, is envisioning what you want and opening the door. And I think this is really important for people to realize it's what you want. So if you want to go on a trip, you usually focus on the vacation, the spot you're going to. What a lot of people do, and I've done it too in the past, is you say, okay, so I want a guy in my life, and I don't want him to be like this. I don't want him to be a workaholic, and I don't want him to be like my dad, and I don't want him to smoke, and I don't want him to drink, and I don't want him to be abusive, and I don't want him. And really what you're listing is everything you don't want, and thinking that you're actually saying what you want. Imagine booking a trip and saying you wanted to go to Mexico, and you said, so I don't want to go to Zimbabwe, and I don't want to go to Canada, and I don't want to go here, but you never ever put your energy in booking your trip to go to Mexico.
And you never go to Mexico, because if you don't book the trip, how are you going to get there? You know, and some of it as well is people tend to put such superficial things on their lists. Like, I want him to be tall, dark, and handsome, 6'3", 6 foot, whatever, 3. I know centimeters, that's why I get the feet from.
Well,
and
it's only the States that does feet. Everybody else in the world does centimeters. So
really, okay. So we're being brainwashed again.
Yeah.
And he needs to be having a sports car or two, or earning $200,000 or $1 million a year, and things that don't really give you joy. Whereas you could be looking at, I want a person who sees me, who wakes up every day and looks at me and finds joy in looking at me. I want a person whom I can talk to. I want a person that I can understand. Because sometimes some people are so closed that you never be able to figure them out. You can't even do what they like because they don't tell you. Let's start being real. Let's start asking for what we need, not our wants of the world, but really what we need with our hearts. And when we get them, we will recognize them. We'll see them. We'll appreciate them. Because we'll see, oh yeah, he's caring for me. He notices when I'm doing this. I've been reading a book whereby these two people were fighting, and the husband and wife, they were fighting, and the wife says, you know, this is the time they were fighting about a case. It's a series that I read by J.D. Robb, and she says they were fighting about a case because the husband was saying, oh well, he's better off dead, and she's a murder investigator. She's saying nobody deserves to be killed by someone for their own benefit. Right. Whether they need to go to court, and she believes in the whole system thing, and he doesn't believe that. He says, well, in this case, I think it's okay that he's dead. And they were having this, argument. And then she says, then she looks at him. He does something nice for a friend and says, this is the same person who believes this should happen. But then he turns around and he takes this person to his home to be looked after because he had been injured at work. How do you reconcile that? But why I'm telling this story is I love the beauty of her noticing that he can be annoying sometimes, but oh my God, he can be so loving too. And seeing the two, because she was comparing the two while they were having the argument, and seeing that nobody's perfect and nothing is set in stone. Sometimes a person's way of looking at things might aggravate you, but it doesn't make them all bad. It doesn't make everything that they do bad. When you start seeing the good and the bad at the same time, that's when you're creating love.
Yeah, and there's a fine line in our culture right now because there's been such an energy that has, and still present, that has created submissiveness in relationships. And so, women on the other side have turned around and they've either been submissive or they've been overturned the top and been really aggressive back at it to compensate. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is when you're creating love and you're experiencing love, you realize that the other person, just like yourself, has some qualities that may or may not be the best. They could be slightly annoying, right? But they're really minor in the scope of things. it's completely different of having an experience that somebody is, because there's another topic of conversation, is narcissistic, which is out there, right? So they can be wonderful and charming on one level and then turn around and you go, oh, they're so kind and considerate, and then it's quite the opposite. So we just want to say what you're saying is more in the middle of realizing everybody has, you know, when you're creating that love, is accepting that we all have things that annoy people. I smile too much sometimes, or I stick my foot in my mouth too often, you know, when I'm just really boom and deliver something, right? You know, we all eat differently. We all package, you know, all the things. We clean house differently. We sleep differently. There's all these habits or ways of being that I have, that Melody has, that everyone else has. And loving someone is really allowing them to be them.
Yes. And you can only do that when you start loving yourself, when you really look at yourself and accept who you are, and accept being female, accepting who you are at the core, you know, your spirit, your essence, your joy, your love, your body. When you start loving yourself, you start caring for other people as well. So you're not being egotistical, you're being somebody who really cares about yourself. Someone who says, everything is filtered through me. Mm-hmm. So the greater I am, the more I have to give. The greater knowledge I have, the more I am going to give. The greater understanding I have, the greater my ability to teach others and to make myself the most fantastic and most beautiful, the most wondrous and most tender human being in the world. Because now you are going into the human spirit. You're going into the love space. You're tapping into what we should be every day, but we have rejected for whatever reason. And you're saying, I want things to be better.
Well, or even just accepting them, right?
Yes,
accepting the experience and saying, okay, that was the experience. Like, you know, I know, and many people that have been watching know that I've already gone through too. And and they were different experiences, but there was similarities because I was there. So in letting go of the past is, instead of just pointing the finger out there, because 3 fingers are pointing right back here at me, it's like letting go and saying, do I love myself enough to have the relationship that I really want? Right? Do I love myself enough to have someone honor and love me, whether I'm 10 pounds heavier than I'm supposed to be, that in my, because it's supposed to be relates to here, right? Because we're the ones that put that on ourselves and say, oh, I've got to look a certain way or be a certain way in order to be loved. And then we find a guy who holds us accountable to that, and then we make them wrong because they're like, you're supposed to love me now because I ate too many Christmas cookies, and they're going, no, because they can feel our energy saying, no, you only love yourself when you look a certain way. Some people could never be seen without makeup in public, right?
Yeah.
And they don't love themselves enough to just go out there and say, I'm okay without makeup. And then if they get called on it by the person they're involved with, then they're like, oh, that's not fair. You don't love me enough.
You don't love me enough. And sometimes, the funny thing I've always, especially about makeup, I didn't want to comment on it, but I'm going to, is that most of the men I've heard from, I've read about, I've listened to, have said they don't get it. They actually really don't understand why we put on makeup, because they don't care for that at all. It's all about us, which is okay. If it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel more confident, that's fine. But if you become a slave to it, that's not fine.
Yeah, if it's dress up, like when you were a kid, right? You dressed up, you put on the high heels and you did things or whatever the heck it was. You were playing, and you're enjoying it and you decide you're going out and you want to get dressed up and look good. It's when you become attached to it and you become so attached to a way of being that your loved one sees you that way because they love you enough to see you the way you want to be seen. And then you make them wrong because they're holding you accountable for the way you want to be perceived. And you're saying, but you should love me when I'm this way. And they're like, well, you don't love yourself that way. So why should I?
And they say the people we have in our lives are our mirrors, right? So whatever they are reflecting to you is what you're feeling or thinking. That's the energy you're vibrating it. Well, we talk about energy a lot on this channel, on this show, because, well, everything is energy. Yeah. And so when you look at a person and you don't feel they are welcome or they are loved or whatever, and you feel like they don't love you, maybe it's you who's not loving yourself. Maybe it's you who's not. Maybe it's you who needs to look back and start letting go of all those judgments, all those conditions, all those limits that you are putting on yourself, or all those conditions to say, I'll only be lovable if I have achieved A, B, C, D, if I'm this size, if I've got this amount of money, if I'm married to this guy, if I've got 3.5 kids, or whatever. Because I remember my friend once, former friend, because I've been in touch with her for some time,
right,
saying to me, oh yeah, you haven't had a child yet, because I had Siobhan at the time. Mm-hmm. You haven't had children yet because you don't have a son.
Okay.
And I said, you are a woman. She said, yeah, and I have a son. And I said, I need you to understand what you just said. I said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you have just said you are less valuable than your husband.
Yeah.
And she said, oh my God, because sometimes some of the things we pick up, some of the energy we carry with us, some of the beliefs we have, they might not be ours. Right. We might not have really thought about the implication of what that means to us personally. And in so doing, we start making mistakes. We start doing things that don't serve us. We start looking at people with judgments that if they were turned around and put on us, we wouldn't welcome them. We wouldn't want them. We actually run screaming, rejecting them because they don't feel good.
Yeah, I think in the letting go of the past, it really starts with each of us. Yeah. So Melody and myself can easily house clean too, because it's just each year you go through and you learn something else about yourself. You learn something every day if you're paying attention. You can learn in each moment. So letting go of the past and creating love is noticing what you may have experienced or been doing that you want to keep in the past, right? So for me, I know there was a habit in my ancestral or my mother or whatever that we did feel that there was something, although they were strongly independent. Like my granny used to say to me, she came over from Scotland by boat, when she was, I think, 19.
Yeah.
No cell phones to check in on,
How did they do it?
I wonder. How did they do it back then, right? They get in a boat, they travel over the ocean. She was with her sister. The only communication is like mail, and it takes like 6 weeks to get there. Like, how could they do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so she had fierce independence streak, but yet when she got married, she used to say to me when I was in my 20s, she'd say, when I was dating someone, she'd say, you need to be more independent. And then when I wasn't dating them, she'd say, you're too picky. And I felt like she had this unresolved issue about being so independent and wanting to take care of herself and having a great faith in God, right? Yeah. And then what it meant to be married. And then my mother was kind of like that too. Like she was a tomboy, you know, and then she got married, and then she gave up her job to raise the kids, right? And my dad could provide. And so I always felt that there was this energy around what is it? And I too was in amongst that energy until I started to see it and say, okay, that might have been them.
Yeah.
But what is it that I believe? So, and what is it that I want? And I wanted to be home with my kids. Mm-hmm. Now, funny thing, not when I was working, you know, but after I had my awakening, the ability to be home with them and to be present to them and see the amazing things that go on every day and to be like a mompreneur from home was such a gift.
Mm.
And then recognizing, wow, I'm really, really fortunate that I have this opportunity versus feeling less than because I didn't have a title on my office door anymore, you know, and I didn't have all the company perks anymore.
Yeah.
It was an entirely different experience. So really, it's about looking back at ourselves, I think, Melody, first in the letting go. What do you think?
I think, yes, the first person you need to look at is you. And understand that, you see, the way I look at love is there's a tension and an expansion all the time. There's nobody who has it sussed. Nobody. Even those who say they are the gurus of whatever. We all have a tension and an expansion. What I call a tension is something that challenges you. Something that makes you question, am I doing this right? Do I even want to do this? Why can't I just be angry like everyone else? Why can't I just revenge whatever would have been done to me or, you know, for me by people? That's when you start thinking, okay, this is happening now. I'll give you an example. Recently, I learned my daughter was going through stuff, but she wasn't sharing with me. And so I sat her down and said, why were you not telling me this? And she said, well, because I didn't want to stress you out. And I said, have I given you an impression that sharing with me stresses me out? Have I done that? Am I not being the person I think I am? Because I looked at myself and I think, what am I doing that makes you think that?
Right.
Or feel that? I said, no, it's all me. And I said, I hope, because we are having this conversation now, that you have to understand that being loving and caring for somebody is being open with them.
Yeah.
Is being vulnerable with them. Don't worry about being a burden, because you never are. But if you see somebody you love and they hold back and they don't tell you stuff, or if you hear that something has been going on with me and I didn't tell you, how would you feel? Because that's what I tend to hear. How would you feel about that? I would feel betrayed. And I said, no, I don't feel betrayed. I just feel like at this time you didn't understand because you're still growing.
Right.
So I don't feel betrayed. I just feel you need to understand that this is love. Sharing stuff is love too. Is loving each other. I didn't mean to tell my personal story, but there you go. I wanted to go to Richard, and he has written a beautiful piece about some of the mistakes
hold on, I'm sorry. I just have to giggle now because it's so cute. You go, I didn't mean to tell my personal story. Richard, we'll tell Richard's personal story. No, just...
Instead, not mine. So Richard has written a very beautiful story about his observations. And because I love Richard's perspective sometimes, and when I'm trying to figure out how to say something, and I think we would benefit from a male perspective, I ask him to give me the male perspective. And he was saying, well, the way he has observed women and some of the things that we might want to let go of that are standing in our way from getting the right guy or the right man is that we have very low expectations. We aim too low. Like, we don't think we deserve love. So we just take whatever comes. Yeah.
So too low. So that's the first thing you had to say. And for those of you that are going, who's Richard? We're not talking about Richard Branson.
No.
We're talking about Richard Ambrosio, and he did a fabulous conversation with Melody and I in the early December, and we can put the comments below about what men view on intimacy. So he was great. It was absolutely great. And if you want to hear more from him, then just make comments and let us know. And Richard, I'm sure, would be happy to come back and have another three-way.
Yes, indeed. And he's written a blog, actually. So if you go to Heart Passion Institute, that's where I'm getting this from. Okay. Because if you want more detail, go to Heart Passion Institute and read the whole blog. It's over there. And the second thing he said is we expect too much. We aim, like, our expectations are too high.
So we aim too low or we aim too high?
Yes, yeah. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us have this list of things that we want from a person.
Okay.
That are impossible to fulfill, or that stop you from seeing the person in front of you.
Okay.
Yeah. That you have this image of a perfect guy with a perfect body and a perfect hair and perfect money and perfect everything, that you stop seeing the person who's going to love you perfectly.
Okay, so what's coming to me now, Melody, so you're going to need clarification. Okay, so we're saying to people, we want you to create love. We want you to let go of the past and start to envision what you'd like this year. And so then people are like, okay, so now I'm going to write. Now I don't want to write too high or write too low. So what really it's how you want to be treated is probably best to go on that list versus the details of saying, I want a guy that's 6 feet tall or has a Ferrari or, makes six figures. Is that what we're saying? Is that what Richard's saying?
Yes, we always talk about feelings here. How are you feeling? That's what you want to aim for. How do you want to feel with this person? If you are with a person who treats you badly and who makes you feel like less of yourself, who makes you think being a woman is wrong or is less of a person or is anything negative at all, you have aimed too low. Whether they are your boyfriend or your husband or whatever, or your brother, you are expecting too little. You should call them on it if you can.
Yeah.
If you can't, if they are your boyfriend, you can just say bye-bye. We'll find somebody else.
And somebody can treat you poorly, right? And regardless of what income class they're in. So just the right?
Yes.
Because sometimes it's quite the opposite. You want somebody, you set your goal and you say, I want somebody that can take me to dinner nice, dinner's out and drives a fancy car, whatever. And they are such a workaholic or so kind of, or you're candy for them.
Yeah. Yes.
So candy just gets tossed when it's not needed. You know what I mean?
They only give you 2 hours of their time, and usually at night when you can't even see them.
Right. Because you're out for dinner and you're looking good on them, but when you get back home, it could be like nothing's there at all because there's no benefit to you then because their whole thing is being out there and creating an image. So it's not about what you think they are. It's what do you want to feel when you're in the company of another person.
Yes. And even when you're looking for somebody with all those things, you also have to include with all the height and the money and everything. You still have to look at how do you feel when you're with them.
Right.
If you don't feel great, maybe you should find someone else.
And if you feel like they are lying, cheating, deceitful, any of those things, go.
Yes.
Because you need to be able to trust them. You need to be able to trust yourself to really, really be in love.
And use your words again that you need to love yourself enough to live and know you deserve better. And find that makes you feel happier. When I'm saying better, I don't mean a better person, but I mean a better situation. I mean, feeling better in yourself, feeling good, great, wonderful, amazing, feeling not at peace, but how do you want to describe? Like when I was with Taurai, or when I'm with people I love, I feel settled. I feel stable. Yeah, like at peace, at home, just relaxed. None of this whole drama thing that media has told us has to happen, and fireworks and whatever. Yeah, sometimes you might create that once in a while in the bedroom, but most of the time, it's just that feeling steady, feeling grounded, feeling at home, that I can then go and create other things that are amazing in my life. That's what I'm trying to say.
So those were Don't Aim Too High, Don't Aim Too Low. Did Richard have any other hot tips on his blog that we can read?
That one is not being present. And I thought this was a wow. I actually read it and said, oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
You're always playing stuff in your head that you don't even see him, and he's sitting right there across the table. And comparing him to your previous boyfriend, or comparing him to your ex-husband, or whatever, and you are not there fully, completely.
I had a gentleman this past year, and he would stop talking. And I go, why aren't you talking anymore? He goes, because you're not listening anymore. I go, of course I am. I'm right here. And he goes, no, your eyes are like have gone somewhere else. And I'm like, you know, and he would call me on it, right? And throughout the because he'd go, there you go again. And I'm like, and literally, I was unaware. But then what would happen was he would say something. Then I started to become aware of it. So then I started to go, oh, this is how it goes. He would say something, and that would trigger like a thought, like whatever he's talking about, right? The weather. And I go, yeah, the weather. And I would go and pick up on a whole other thought. And I go, yeah, I wonder what the road's with. And you go, you're not listening. And I'm like, oh, yes, I am. You know, but then when I became aware, I'd be like, yeah, I'd already triggered into that other thought. And it was really eye-opening for me, where up until then, I would have totally defended and made that other person that I was talking to completely wrong. I've never been called that. Of course I'm listening. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Because that's the female thing. Mm-hmm. This is not a fault. It's like our brains, the way they are made, we connect dots. We are always trying to link things and connect them. That's natural for us. So if somebody says something that triggers a thought, we're off, we're gone. And men find that so frustrating, because when he is looking at you, there's nothing else. He's looking at you. But when he's driving as well, there is nothing else. He's driving. So you need to understand that. So when you go off somewhere, because that's the one thing they notice. Yeah. Absence. If mindfulness has ever helped women, this is the area we need help in. Not that we need to change or transform ourselves into different things, but when you are listening, because men don't talk that much or that often. Most of them anyway. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So when they are speaking, and they only speak when they have something to say, otherwise they don't. We are the ones who are continuously covering the space with talking, because we're good at it.
And that could be a reason, too, why a lot of men only seem to express themselves sexually, because they realize they can keep us quiet. You know, at that moment that we actually have, they're actually getting our full attention.
Attention, yes.
You know, and then we make it and say, oh, our relationship's only about sex.
Yeah, but it's because you don't.
It's about attention.
Yes, you don't stop enough to notice him, to pay attention, to
present.
Read. Yeah. It's very important.
Those are 3 top things. So the blog is at heartpassioninstitute.com.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a very interesting topic.
Post the link. So what's the title of the book?
Oh, goodness. What's the title of the book? 3 mistakes that women make when they are trying to meet the right man. Yes.
Okay. So 3 mistakes that women make when they're trying to meet the right man. So if this is your opportunity, as you're creating love and you're letting go read the blog. Notice if you've ever aimed too high, aimed too low in that sense, or were never present in your relationship. Be honest with yourself. And then as you let go of that, and the next moment that comes after the show here or later on tomorrow, and you get those opportunities, is really notice, are you present? Yeah. Are you present with your loved ones, your children, your family members, your girlfriends that you're in love with? Like, are you really present, or sometimes are you just engaged in the whirlwind? Especially because next week we're going to be talking about more on loving yourself.
Yes, we're going to go deeper into loving yourself, and this aims to be a very good one, actually. So tune in next week, and we will go deeper into the subject and see what happens.
Yes, this will be the second part of the 4-part series, is loving yourself, and we've got some really great stuff for you. So make sure you open and receive, whether that is through here or by email, however you prefer to get this broadcast. But reach out and get on that heartpassioninstitute.com and check out Richard's blog.
And if you feel I want to say there's a surprise at the end of the series. So if you watch all the 4 videos we're going to do, we'll give you a beautiful surprise at the end. And you will enjoy it, I think. Or it will help you to do the work faster.
In order to know that we're gonna, if they've watched all 4 parts, I'm gonna give you the letter L on this one. And at the end of the 4 parts of the series, you've got to know how to spell that letter to catch your special.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I love that. That's great. Yes, because we have part 3 and part 4 as well.
Yes.
And part 3, should I tell them, or should we wait until next week?
Yeah, they got to wait till next week. It's all create this curiosity. But the whole idea is you'll have 6 days until Valentine's when this series is over. So many wonderful things can happen as you're creating love, whether yourself, you're loving on a new level, your family, your partner, your beloved that you've had for 50 years, whatever it is.
And yourself. And yourself.
I love you, Melody.
Love you too, Jacqueline. And goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye.